Dear Satan, this year for Christmas I want. Who wrote this? This makes absolutely no sense. Oh, wait, it was me. I wrote this when I was very little, without knowing that I might have accidentally summoned something. This and many others are some of the reasons my school suggested that maybe, just maybe, there might be a reason for my struggles. You see, I've always struggled with completing basic reading and writing assignments. So that's why my parents took me to a psychologist, where I was able to be assessed. And there it was confirmed that I indeed have dyslexia. But I didn't know what dyslexia was. I didn't even know it was a thing. So that's why my parents explained to me that dyslexia is a neurological disorder that hinders my ability to read and write. But try telling that to a kid who couldn't complete basic reading or writing assignments. I felt different in the why can't I do this like everyone else type of way. But later in life, I was able to research more about dyslexia and learn that it's not only a hindrance, it's also a superpower. It's what I call three-dimensional projection. So basically, dyslexic brains work in 3 dimensions. We imagine everything in 3D. For example, topographical maps. You would see them like this. It's a 2-dimensional object trying to represent a 3-dimensional object. Makes no sense, right? Meanwhile, I see them like this. Makes more sense, right? Recently, I had to do a newer dyslexia assessment because my dyslexia carnet had expired. Because I didn't know that was an option. I would have taken it long ago. So the first step was for my parents to meet up with the college counselors and my advisors, for them to know how it would be different for me right now, who's preparing to go into college, than for me, who was a kindergartner last time. Then my parents took me to the psychologist, where I was able to be assessed, and she did many tests on me, on my reading, on my writing, but what surprised me the most, on my memory. Because apparently, people with dyslexia struggle to create memories in the short term. So a test that she would do is she would say a string of numbers, such as 7, 8, 3, and I would have to repeat them from least to greatest. So 3, 7, 8. So right now, let's see if you guys have dyslexia. I'll show you a string of numbers, and we'll see if you guys can remember them, okay? Okay, if you guys can remember them, perfect. You probably don't have dyslexia. But me, I can't even remember the first couple numbers. Because I've lived all my life with dyslexia, I've learned many strategies that help me thrive as a student. One of which is when I'm reading, I use audiobooks, so I'm able to stay on task with everything I'm doing and don't fall behind from the rest of my peers. Another strategy I use is when I'm writing, I read out loud what I wrote, so I make sure I'm not writing a bunch of nonsense. But most importantly, I have a tool called Open Dyslexia, which changes many fonts in websites to one which is easier for me to read and comprehend. But if I have learned one thing, is that I'm not doing this alone. I have the help of my teachers, my friends, and most of all, my family, who have taught me all my life that even if I have dyslexia, that shouldn't pull me back. I am not just my dyslexia. I have many aspects to myself. But if you have to take one takeaway from this talk, it's that Santa Claus is also dyslexic. Because even though I addressed my letter to Satan that year, I still got my presents.